anything you would like to sing, but you would like to, anything you like to share. And along the way, I will share in between some messages. And then the plan is to, right about 11 or so, I would like to, at that point to start phasing it down where we give everyone a final chance for a final orderly or in a very orderly manner. Each one will get a chance to come by and say a final farewell. And at about 11:30 or so, we want to close the casket, and then we'll begin to proceed to the crematorium. When we go to the crematorium, it's right next door. We walk across, but in the crematorium it's very small. There's two furnaces in there. It only holds a few people, and what we expect is just the immediate family can make it into there. Most of us remain outside, right outside of the crematorium. So that is our program. That is our plan for this morning. Um, this ceremony, I know as we all know, it's very sad. It's one complete opposite of a wedding ceremony. Wedding is all jubilance, joy, frolic. When death comes, it's a complete opposite. Solemn, quiet, sad. But that is the dualities of life. And we have all seen this with other families, with other friends. But trust me, each and every one of us will go through it. And what we do is, when it happens, we want to do our best to share our emotions, share our thoughts, and share our feelings and support for those who are experiencing it at that point in time. And that is why we all gather here today to help support this family so they can get through, if you will, or get over, if you will, this speed bump in the journey of life. That's what speed bumps are for. Sometimes we go too fast and we forget. And when death comes, it stops us in our track, just like a speed bump. Some of them may not be high enough to stop us. We bump over. He used to come to our Samaj. Very, very devoted, simple. I call him a backbencher type of guy. You don't even know he's there. But he will come diligently and very dedicated and always willing to help in any way he can. And he will sit quietly and he will listen and he always, I can tell you for me personally, always will come and always compliment me. Pandit, that was amazing. That was very nice. And so on and so on. Always, for me personally, he was very a great friend, if you will, that I missed. I remember last month, June, I think it was the 27th, he came to Mandir. And he came up on the stage after everything was finished. It was Father's Day celebration. And he said, he told me, sorry, I couldn't be here the last time because I think you went on vacation, you guys went away. And but I'm here, but I want to plan something. And I don't have your number. Can you give me a number again? And I did. So by the time I get to that night, I sent by WhatsApp. I sent him my number. And he responded. He said, thanks. And then lo and behold, 2 or 3 weeks later, Karen reached out to me and told me he was going through this procedure. And then one thing after that, but very shocking to me, in 2 or 3 days roughly, she told me he's no more. I was taken by surprise because I remember a strong person last month, just 4 weeks ago, that I met and very ready to embrace and go forward with journey of life. You put in all this hard work. Now it's that time you leave that alone. We have children or we have grandchildren and we're going to go forward. So there's so many lessons and so many stories we will talk about here, and we, all of us, need to just take check where we are. So with that said, just in a few minutes we'll get started with this portion of the ceremony. We'll get that taken care of, and then after we open it up for messages and bhajan singing. So I'm giving you a heads up. Be prepared. This is your turn for your final, if you will, final farewell to my Parmanan, your experience, your experiences that you may have had with him that you would like to share, or whatever you like to wish your family and share with the family, that's perfectly fine. This is where we do that. So I will come back up in just a few minutes and I'll open it up with a prayer. So everything we just said was not starting, just as a program. And we'll get started this morning. Thank you so much. And again, I really appreciate it. I cannot thank you enough for, I think Karen sent out that notice from 9 to 12, but I came in this parking lot at 8:45. It was almost full. That's amazing, and I'm very impressed. And thank you all very much for your respect for time. Thank you. All right. Once again, namaste and welcome to all this morning. As we're about to proceed with this morning's final services, final rites for the late Seetal Permanent. And let me begin with a few prayers and then we'll proceed with the Agnihotra ceremony. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnata Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Ishawasyam Idam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjita Ma Gridaha Kasya Svidhanam. Om Yam Brahma Varuna Indra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divya Vedai Sang Parakramo Panishadair Gayantiyam Samaga Dhyanavastirataragate Namanasa Pashyantiyam Yogino Yasyantam Navidur Sura Suraganam Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadihitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Mano Buddhi Hankar Chittani Naham Nacha Shrotra Jive Nacha Grana Netre Nacha Vyoma Bhumi Natejo Navayu Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. Chid meaning the word for chid is really chit, but the way the language is, you have to change the T to an A. Chidananda. Chit Anand Rupaha. We are all the form of Shiva. And who is Shiva? Shiva is that powerful being. Don't think about the picture, but the snake and the nag and the hare. Think about each and every one of us. We are all Shivas. And what do? We strive for benevolence and a great life. And that's what Shiva was about. He's saying that the mantra is saying that we are all full of bliss. Anand means bliss, and Chit means consciousness. As long as we can move around, we're conscious, we're Chit. We're Chit, Anand. And if you're conscious, you can strive and you can move toward the path of blissfulness. And how do you do that? By become Shiva-like. And that means be powerful. Exercise the great tools and implements we are all blessed with so that we can become that great person of bliss. And when that happens, my friends, that's when we share and that's when everybody else, friend, family, society, becomes the same. So we'll proceed with what's called the Antiyeshti Kriya Sanskar. And that, so in our lives, devotees and friends, and sympathizers of this family, there are 16 sanskars. What is a sanskar? A sanskar is a sacrament. What is a sacrament? A sacrament is a religious ceremony which, when performed, leaves a latent impression on the mind of the performer. A latent impression. Latent mean it's there, it's hidden, you cannot see it. The way I explained that to my mom, and she was no way, she did not go to school. I said, Mom, you know what latent mean? No. But she's the best cook. So I took her and went to the kitchen when she was cooking. I said, you see the steam that's coming off in a pot? If you to take, if your finger goes into the hot water itself, it burns. But if it gets burned with the steam, it's worse than the actual hot water. The steam is latent in power. It's latent in energy. And what this sacrament, a religious ceremony, which when performed leaves a latent impression. Latent impression. Where? In the minds of the performer. Many times we do things and we don't see immediate reactions. We do not see immediate results. But that's what latent is. And that's what these ceremonies does. You may not experience it today, but let me tell you, and I'm sure many of you in this room, you can relate to what I'm going to say, and that is, you're sure in this journey of life so far, things has happened, and you look back and say, man, there's a reason why, but you cannot explain why. Because you did something somewhere along the way. In our philosophy, there's something called the third principle of physics says that to every action is an equal and opposite reaction. That's what this is all about. If you do the right thing, just continuously do that, the right thing will come back to you. And guess when? When you most or least expect it to happen. But if you have not been doing that, then the opposite happens. So a sanskar, which is what this is called. So we have 16 sanskars. The very first sanskar is at the time of impregnation. Just the thinking or the thought of having a child is the first sanskar. It's called Garbhadan sanskar. Garb meaning the womb, impregnation of the womb. That's the first sanskar. And along the way, we have 16 of them. Everybody knows number 13. Anybody want to guess what number 13 is? Number 13 is the wedding ceremony. From a child in the womb all the way to 13. If you think of 16 stairways or 16 steps, number 13 is when we get married. And then 16 is when we're no longer. And today, that's what we're going to perform. And we pray in this ceremony, in the mantras that are being chanted, we pray that may the soul of now the late Parmananji, may that soul, whatever decision, whatever plans, oh God, that you may have for him, may that soul move on to prosperous environment. We talk about resting in peace and all these things, and they all equate to the same thing. But from our Hindu, Vedic, Sanatan, Dharmic philosophy, the prayer is saying that, may you, O soul, as you journey on, whatever the plan is, and none of us knows. And this, again, is another lesson to be learned. In life, as we go through life, many of us think we know everything. But when certain things happen, we put our heads in our hands, and we, kya hai? Kya hai? What happened? What's going on? That's when we realize there's a silent and powerful power, if you will, that's behind all of this. And whatever name you call that power, that generator, operator, destroyer, God, whatever name you call that, that's your choice. I will never tell anyone how or who to call God. That's your decision. But whatever and how you find that peace within you, that drives that within you, that's what matters. So today, as we chant our prayers, make our offerings, we pray and we ask that powerful being who created us all, that may you, the soul, and now we are thankful for 73 years of having this wonderful individual in this mortal frame called by permanent Seetal. We thank you, O God, for blessing us with this wonderful father, husband, brother, and whatever relationship we may have had with him. Today, we're going to send this back. And that's what cremation is, by the way, just educationally for all of us. So cremation, all of us are made up of 5 elements: earth, fire, water, air, and ether. Every single one of us in this room. And everybody else. We're all made up of 5 elements: earth, fire, water, air, and ether. The only thing that's missing is that breath, the prana. And then also what drives it all is the soul. But the soul, none of us are in control. And so once the soul leaves the body, the elements are just left there. All we're doing today is to help to send the elements back to the respective sources from where they came from, those five: earth, fire, water, air, and ether, in a very timely and quick manner. And when you chant the mantra, I will not have time to explain them all, but you will hear me say things like Chakshu, Om Chakshu, Chakshu, Gachatu Swaha. Chakshu referring to the eye. May you go back to the sun. May you go back to the light. You hear me talk about walk. Walk referring to the ear. Knock referring to the nose. And all the various parts of the body. We are thanking God for blessing us with this wonderful frame, mortal frame that we had. May you, thank you for all of that. May you now accept them back into the respective places. But most importantly, may you bless the soul. Wherever the soul, whatever plans you have for this soul. He came, he did a lot in my time with him that I spent, or I knew him. I knew he was a very, very kind and wonderful person. May that soul, whatever the next step is, may that continue to build upon that to get to the ultimate goal in our philosophy is to mukti. Mukti meaning liberation. Liberation meaning anand. Chidananda rupaha. Shivoham, shivoham. Anand means bliss, meaning the soul never comes back. It just resides like Sri Ram, Sri Krishna, and so on all these great souls, Jesus, and so on, all these wonderful saints and sages. They gain that bliss, but the soul does not reside or is not not within this realm, if you will. But they're there, and when things happen, and then choices are being made based on the architect, the master creator. Okay, it's time that you have had, you're in bliss. Now you can go and show examples of how we can make a difference. So anyway, we'll talk more about this in some of the bhajans. You'll hear many bhajan songs today, and that's the talk. A lot of them are related to this type of philosophy. So with that said, let's proceed with the Agnihotra ceremony, the final sanskar, number 16 of them all. Karen, Soren, Viren, if you join with me, I will sit with them on the floor as we perform. This will be about, I will say, no more than 25 minutes. So I ask you just bear with us as we perform this portion of the ceremony. Soren, can you please join us? There you are. Okay, so if you can take the camphor. Who's the eldest? Soren, this is the other side. Soren, Karen, Viren. Viren, Karen, Soren. I have to do one. You did it. Sorry, take that. Take what half of it. Can you give us the dia for just for the dia? Take the whole thing. So let's do this. Chant a few prayers and then we'll start with the fire. We'll chant a few prayers and then we'll proceed with the kindling of the Agni Kund. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Om Vishwani Deva Savitara Duritani Parasuva Yat Bhadram Tana Asuva ॐ हिरण्यगर्भा समवर्तताग्रे भूतस्य जाता पतिरेकयासीत् सदाधार पृथिवीं द्यामुतेमं कस्मै देव यः विशा विधेमम् ॐ य आत्मदा बलदा यस्य विश्व उपासते प्रशिशं यस्य देव यस्य चाय अमृतं यस्य मृत्युः कस्मै देव यः विशा विधेमाम् ॐ यः प्राणतो निमिषतो महेत्वैक इद्राजा जगतो बभूव या ईशे अषड्विपदश्चतुष्पदः कस्मै देव यः विशा विधेमम् ॐ येन द्यौरुग्रा पृथिवी च दृढा येन स्वास्तभितं येन नाका यो अन्तरिक्षे रजसो विमानः कस्मै देव यः विशा विधेमाम् ॐ प्रजापते न त्वदेतान्यन्यो विश्वा जातानि परिता बभूव यत्कामस्ते जुहुमस्तनो अस्तु वयं श्यामपतयोरयीर्णाम् ॐ सनो बन्धुर्जनिता सा विधाता धामानि वेदभुवनानि विश्व यत्र देव अमृतमानशानः श्रुत्ये धामन् न धैर्ययन्त ॐ अग्नेनया सुपथाराय यस्मान् विश्वानि देव वयुनानि विद्वान् युयोध्यस्मज्जुहुरार्णमेनो भूयिष्ठान्ते नम उक्तिं विधेमाम्. Okay, Viren, take this, light it from here. Om. Okay, place it in the middle. Very good. And now we'll continue into offering ghee, just the ghee. The two of you join with him, right? Acha. Yes, perfect. Om Agnaye Swaha Idam Agnaye Idan Namamam Om Somaya Swaha Om Lokaya Swaha Om Anumataya Swaha Om Swargaya Lokaya Swaha Om Suryam Chakshurgachatu Vatamatma Dhyam Cha Gacha Prithivim Cha Dharmana Apova Gacha Yatate Titrahitam Oshadishu Pratitishta Sharire Swaha. Om. That one mantra I just chant said, oh man, after that, let the sight of your body go back to its cosmic source, the sun, and let your soul go to the atmosphere, and then go either to heaven to live in emancipation, or to the earth to be reborn as determined by the law of karma. Or if it is so be ordained for you, let your soul go to mukti. And that's the, again, as I mentioned, that's the, we pray that may God, whatever the decision is, may that be a great one. Om Ajo Bhagas Tapasa Tam Tapaswa Tam Te Shoshistapatu Tam Te Archihi Yaste Shivastanvo Jata Vedasa Tabirvahena Sukritamulokam Swaha Om Avasrija Punar Agni Pritibhyo Yasta Ahusti Charati Swadahabi Ayurvasana Upavetu Sheshah Samgachacha Tvam Tanvajata Veda Swaha Om Agnirvarma Parigobhirvyasava Samprorusha Pivasa Medasacha Netva Drishnu Harsha Jarhishano Dagdri Vikashra Prakshayatayate Swaha. Yes, very good. Rest it on the ground. Perfect. Good job. Very good, Karen. That's very nice with both of them. Om Yam Twam Agni Sam Eadesha Tanvuva Paya Puna Kiyambu Atarohatu Paka Durva Val Yaksha Paka Durva Val Yaksha Swaha Om Pranebhya Saripatikeभ्यः Swaha Om Prativyai Swaha Om Agnaye Swaha Om Antarikshaya Swaha Om Vayave Swaha Om Om Dive Swaha Om Suryaya Swaha Om Digbhyah Swaha Om Chandraya Swaha Om Nakshetrebhyah Swaha Om Adbhyah Swaha Om Varunaya Swaha. Here we go. Use a spoon. Use a spoon. And you can use your spoon dipped. Like 3 pieces or so. Just to keep the fire going. Oh, very good. You okay? Good, that's good. No problem. So continue with the two. Samaginki. Acha. Yeah, yours. Use your judgment. Om Nabhyai Swaha Om Putaya Swaha Om Vache Swaha Om Pranaya Swaha Om Chakshushe Swaha Om Chakshushe Swaha Om Shrotraya Swaha Om Shrotraya Swaha Om Yamaya Swaha Om Antakaya Swaha Om Mrityave Swaha Om Brahmane Swaha Om Brahmahatyaya Swaha Om Vishwebhyo Devebhyah Swaha Om Dyawa Prithivibhyam Swaha Om Suryam Chakshusha Gacha Vatamatama Divam Cha Gacha Prithivim Cha Dharma Abhihi Apova Gacha Yadi Tatra Te Hitam Oshadishu Pratitishta Sharire Swaham Om Soma Ekebhyah Pavate Gritam Eka Upasate Yebhyo Madhu Pradhavati Tamaschid Evapi Gachatat Swaha Om Yet Purva Rita Sata Rita Jata Rita Vridaha Rishin Tapasvo Yama Tapoja Api Gachatat Swaham Om Tapasaye Anadrishayas Tapasaye Swarya Ayuhu Tapoye Chakriye Mahas Tamaschid Evapi Gachatat Swaha Om Ye Yudyante Pranadeshu Shuraso Ye Tanutyaja Ye Va Sahasra Dakshinas Tamaschir Evapi Gachatat Swaham Om Prehi Prehi Patibhi Purvebhir Yatra Na Purve Pitaraha Pareyuhu Ubarajana Swadaya Mandata Yamam Pashyai Varunam Cha Devam Swaham Om Om Ahirnyayamo Gamam Ashwan Purusham Jagat Vaivashvatru Tripyati Panchamanavir Yamaha Swaha. Just for 5 more offerings. Om Shivna Asmai Bhava Prithivi Antarikshaya Niveshani Yacha Samaisha Pratah Swaha. Om Vayur Anilam Amritam Atedham Bhasmantam Shariram Om Krato Smara Klive Smaraha Kritam Smaraha Swaha. Om. Final 3 offerings. Before we go to the final 3, this mantra I just chanted, this is the exact mantra I will chant when we go to the crematorium. Om Vayur Anilam Amritam Atedham Bhasmantam Shariram. Bhasma means everything we've been chanting is in Sanskrit. And here it's saying Amritam Atedham Bhasmantam Shariram. Shariram means the body. Sharir means the body. Bhasma means ashes. And that is exactly the mantra we'll chant when we are at the crematorium. And we pray that may the fire, agony, burn the body to ashes. And that's how the fastest way for it to go back to the 5 elements. As I mentioned, earth, fire, water, air, and ether. So you will hear me chanting this. So it says, Om Vayu Anilam Amritam Atiram Bhasmantam Shriram Om Krato Smara Kleve Smara Klitam Smaraha Smaraha. It's saying that, O soul, at the time of death, think of God. And this is what Sri Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita when he was giving lecture to Arjuna. The best way to leave this mortal frame, if the last thing ever you can do is to think of God. Whether you call his name or your thought is with him. And I know many examples where I've seen that happen. And he's saying that, think of God, oh man, think of God, think of him for courage, and think of him so that you, that is the soul, referring out to the soul, not the body anymore, may move on. May that soul, that is immortal, may that soul no longer be may that soul no longer be material, if you will. Don't get clinging up with the material, but move forward to the immortal plane of life. Okay? And that's what we said in the beginning, that mantra, Anand. Shivoham, Shivoham. Strive forward, Anand. So the final 3 offerings, and all of us are very familiar with these 3 final offerings. Every puja and Havan has this. Om Sarvam Ve Purnam Swaha. Om Sarvam Ve Purnam Swaha. Sarvam meaning all, Purna meaning complete. All is complete, all is final. All is complete, all is final. Indeed, Om Sarvam Ve Purnam Swaha. Indeed, all is complete, all is final. This body, very shortly, very soon, will be consigned to the flames. Om Sarvam Ve Purnam Swaha. Very good. Viren, Karen, and Seren. Yes, please, all of it. So before we wrap this portion up, as a quick educational portion, those of us in the audience from Trinidad, Guyana, and so on, this ceremony that we're doing here, very contained within a parlor. As you know, it's happening in the outside in those countries. And they have what we call ghats at seashores, foreshores, wherever there's water, the river or the trench. And that's a requirement. That's what they, at least, and even in India, they still do it. That's exactly where the ghats are. They're literally on the water. So every mantra I just chanted, and I think Karen had asked me about the ghee and samagri and so on. What we'll do is we'll come, but remember we'll put wood. We'll put a layer, like 5 layers of wood. Then we'll put the body, and then we put another 5 layers of wood. And so you want to feed the fire because you want it to burn, right? You don't want it to be half burned or a piece burned. It must be completely burned. And that's where all the ghee come from. We get a lot of ghee, 5-gallon or even buckets of ghee, and a lot of samagri. And the purpose of the ghee and the samagri is to fuel the flame. That's the entire purpose, the only purpose of those 2 ingredients. Is to fuel the flame. So get it going. We use camphor in the beginning to light the various sides. And then every mantra I just chanted, we will have long spoons. And we'll dip by the spoon. And I know it's containing you very little because it's contained in here. But we'll put a lot. Every time we say swaha, Viren and Suren, we'll pour and pour onto the pyre, if you will. And So what we did here is a microcosm, a very small version of what should really be happening. The reason why we don't need all this ghee, and I know some people still do it, but they do it because, well, Pandit, this is what we always do. So they'll still bring a whole bucket of ghee at cremation. These places, and it's not necessary. It's unnecessary. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of ingredient. Reason being, when we go to the crematorium, the parlor, the funeral director, within the next hour, whatever time they have, they will already preheat the oven that the cremation will happen to over 2,000 plus degrees. There's no need for all of that. Electricity does it now. Does that make sense? And this is all I'm saying is very educational, especially for younger generation. Because you will see, and I have seen it where parents and adults will confuse the children. Oh, you got to do this and you got to do that. Tell me why you're doing it. And if you cannot tell me why, guess what? It makes no sense. So I'm explaining to you the whole process, why we do what we do. So in the end, so what we're going to do here after now, when you will take this out, so I'll let it finish burning, but by the time we finish, before we close the casket, we'll bring this back in, we'll fold the foil over, and from that, we'll place that into the casket before we close it. Make sense? We'll keep this dia going that we started since this morning, and before we close the casket, also we'll put the dia inside the casket, and then we'll proceed to the crematorium. All right? So, and I encourage anyone in the audience, before I leave here today, if you have any question, please feel free to ask me. I will answer you as best as I can. If I don't know, I will let you know and I will go find the answer. But I will also, if you cannot, you don't want to talk to, that's fine. I will give you my contact information. Karen has it. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. But we got to be, as a society, Vedic, Hindu, Sanatan, Dharmic people. As we go forward in our society, we must be able to educate and that's what Pandit should be doing. That's the purpose of a Pandit. A Pandit is a teacher. It's to teach, educate. I kind of do everything you're doing here, Viren, Soren, and Karen. I'm only the facilitator. You are you're the performers. And when you're Agnihotra or Agnihotri or Yajmani, that's what you are. You have to want to be, but you must understand what you're doing. Make sense? All right, so with that, we've finished with this portion of the ceremony. So someone will take this out. Viren, if you don't mind, you can take it out. I think usually put it outside that door. There's like a place out there you can leave it so it can contain, born contain. This we'll put back over here. I'll do it. Or, Mira, you want to do this? Put this over. Yes. Put this back over there. Mhm. Yes, exactly. Very good. You guys can be comfortable again. It's fine. You did. You can. Yeah, you can get. You can sit. So as we wrapped up the what we call the 16th sanskar is called Anti Kriya sanskar, and I explained to you the very first one is Garbhadan, the time of impregnation. There are many, many along the way. At 3 months, there's another sanskar called Punsavanam sanskar. That's when the embryo and all the division is taking place with the zygote within. If those of you study biology in high school, you know what I'm talking about, the mitosis, meiosis, and all these things happening. 3 months, it's a very critical time. That's when we talk about miscarriages. There's a sanskar conducted then. And the prayer, and if you study the mantras that are chanted, it says basically in those mantras, may that my child be a strong, physical child. And that's when parents, and especially moms, are being reminded, watch what you do, watch how you eat, watch what you eat, watch what you drink, everything you do. Because everything you do, in the 6th to 7th month, the third sanskar called Simantonayan sanskar. Sima referring to the mang, the middle of the head here. And in that sanskar, that's when the mind of the child is taking shape, is beginning to really hit home. That's why the mother is called Do Hriday. Do Hriday means she has two hearts. Hriday mean heart, Do mean two. She has the heart of herself and the heart of her child. And everything that she does becomes a reflection, or that child, it becomes a reflection like a mirror, and that child grasps. And if you study the Sri Ram Charitramanas, when the mothers, Mata Kaikeyi, Mata Sumitra, Mata Kaushilya, were pregnant with their children, Sri Ram and the brothers, Bharat, Shatrughan, Lakshman, that's exactly what I just said there. And I said that because I got it from Sri Ram Charitramanas. That's exactly what the Guru, when he performed the sanskar, reminded the mothers of everything what you do. Because everything you do, it will now become a reflection of the child. And then, so that's three, right? Garbadan, Punsavanam, Simantonayan. And then the fourth sanskar is what's called Jatkarm sanskar. Jatkarm is the time of birth. That's when the child actually comes into this world. And so that's performed, and we welcome the child. May that be a great what you call action. I mean, may that be a great service to the mom, especially. May she has a great, and that's what the prayer is for the mom, more or less, for her to have a great birth for her child. And then after that, there's a very popular one name, what we call Namkaran Sanskar, right? Many of you probably heard that one. Namkaran. Namkaran means name. That's when we give the child a name. Very important sanskar. But here, the child is now with us. What do we call the child? All along, we have no clue. It's just in the belly of the mom, right? The womb. It's just a soul. But now that the child has a body, this physical body, a son or a daughter, male or female, then in that sanskar, it's a very short sanskar, like only 5-6 mantras, but it's a very powerful mantra. It says that the pandit told the father, hold your child and place your two fingers as if touching the nose, the breath of the child. And he said, look at the child, and then the mantra says this. It says, Om kosi katamosi kasyasi ko namasi. It is, and he's looking at his child and saying, basically what that I just said in Sanskrit says that, oh my child, I know not where you have come from, and I know not where you're going. But what I do know, you are immortal. All about the soul. But during this time, your journey of life with us as your parents, and we call you, and then you pronounce the name. Hey Karen, hey Suren, hey Viren, etc. Hey Sahadev, whatever the name is. So that's Namkaran Sanskar. And then after Namkaran, what's that? That's 5, right? 6 is the child, for the first time, when the child, for the very first time, is going out to the environment, away from what we call lining house, or this area contained from the birth. We first time going out to the exterior, if you will. There's a sanskar conducted, and here we ask that may all of the environmental forces, may they all welcome this child. The sun, the moon, the stars, the air, everything, the earth and plants and everything. And again, if you study the mantras, that's what they're all about. May this child be welcome into the entire cosmos, right? And after that comes a very important one called Anaprashan Sanskar. Ana means food. First time the child is weaning away from the liquid, from the milk of the mother and liquid, and first I'm getting solid. And so that sanskar is all about the digestive system. May the digestive system of this child work in such a way miraculously so that the food will be able to be converted to powerful energy so that the child can grow to be. Then after that we have one more called, so we have Nishkramana, Anaprashan, then we have Karnavade. Karnavade, we don't do that these days, but it used to happen back in the days. Karnavade, Karna referring to the ears. That's the piercing of the ears. And for girl children, we still do it. But I also know, I see male child have it also. But the purpose today is done more from, the whole Karnavade is done from What's happening now with the carnival is all about decoration or ornamental. But back in the days, in the earlier days, it used to be because of some types of diseases that used to happen, and that was the um, dysentery and some other type of diseases. And they used to put a medicinal thread in the ears of the child, and that would help them to get past that type of disease. And then comes number eight. Eight is another one that most of us, if you in the tradition, you will know, and that is the shaving of the hair. It's called a mundan sanskar, or the kesha sanskar. We take away the hair, and that sanskar is number eight. So look at this. This is almost we're not even 1 year old of the child yet. From 0 to 8 sanskar, we already child is only 1 year, but we expect to live 100 years. So you see how firm the foundation has to be. Within a year, 8 sanskar is conducted. Today we're conducting the 16th. So we remove the last of the prenatal signs, that is the hair. And then the next few are very, very straightforward and simple. And those are educational sanskar. They what we call the Janeu sanskar. When we get a thread, the child going to take education with the guru, and then they go away, and then eventually they come back, they get graduated, another sanskar is conducted by the time that's 10, 11, 12. 13, as I mentioned, now they're already a teenager, big teenager, early 20s, ready to get married. That's number 13. You perform that sanskar, big sanskar, as I said, the complete opposite of what we're doing today, and that is all about joy and fun. It's kind of interesting, and I'll just share one quick thought. And this week, tomorrow actually, I'm going to New York. And I don't know if any of you artists know the Pandit Ravidin Ramsamuj. So his son is getting married on Saturday in Long Island, and that's where I'm going. But and it's so sad that just 4 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, his mom passed away. So his mom, and she's not still, that will be done now. The decision, what do you do? Do you have a wedding in 7 days? My mom just passed away. That's what life is, my friends. How do you deal with these things? And there's a beautiful bhajan that helps us. It says, Sukh dukh dono रहते जिसमें जीवन है वो गाओ कभी डूब कभी चाओ कभी डूब तो कभी चाओ ऊपर वाला पासा नीचे नीचे चलती नाव. Sukh and dukh, my friends. Sukh means happiness. Dukh means sadness. Sukh dukh dono. Dono mean both. Both of these. Sukh and dukh. Sukh dukh dono. Rahte. Rahte means to live, to reside. Sukh dukh dono rahte jisme जीवन है गाँव. Jiwan mean life, gaon mean village. In this village called life, which is what we all are, resides, rahte resides, these. Sometimes dhoop, sometimes chow. Kabhi dhoop, kabhi chow. You all know, saw the Ramadan movie, Kabhi Kushi, Kabhi Gum, happiness and sadness. So it's today, as we all know, it's the dukh side of things. But we also, all of us know, we had many, many sukh side of things, didn't we? We had many celebrations along the way. So when these things come, how Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he encouraged Arjuna. He said, Arjuna, in order to be successful in life, you have to understand these things exist. It's not like it will never come or never happen. But he said, well, you got to work towards what's called equanimity, or that happy balance, equilibrium. So my message to you today, on behalf of this wonderful gentleman that has always encouraged me to do for what I was doing as a purohit, is to remind you of this. Today, Karen, Viren, Suren, Mira, it's sad indeed, but do not become depressed. Indeed, you will mourn, and that we're human beings, we have emotions. But this too shall pass. But also, when happiness comes, don't become so ecstatic and carried away, because that too will change. Isn't it so? It will always happen, my friends. It's one coin, but they live on both sides of it. One side is sukh, one side is dukh. But try to find a happy balance. When they come your way, enjoy, yes, but be balanced. When sadness come, mourn, that's fine. But again, don't become so depressed. Try to maintain. That's my simple message to all of you, to this family specifically, but also to our wonderful audience, to take the time to come out today, to wish this mortal frame of ours looks so sharp in that casket. And what a wonderful gentleman. All the best. So with that, I know Karen gave me a few names here. Um, Karen, I will save you for later, but I think I have Benjamin, I have Crystal, we have Sukram, we have Terrence, and then also I'd also like to ask anyone in the audience. I know Bhai Bujun, nice to see you. I know many other singers, and so I'd like to please come forward and say anything. Please feel free to do so. I would like to begin. We'll do this then. I would like to mix this up, and that is let's begin with Benjamin. That is Benjamin Kihai, the son-in-law. I remember you also. Wow. Please come forward, share your thoughts. After that, I would like to ask, Bhai Butchun, would you like to please, I know you're a singer, also please share your thoughts. And any other in the audience, please be prepared. I'll mix it up with the family members. I will then call on the audience. All right? Thank you. Thanks, Benjamin.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not much of a public speaker, and I'm very nervous, so bear with me.
Don't be nervous. You're good. You're good.
There you go. So aloha and good morning. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words about my father-in-law. I can only speak of this wonderful man since the year 2000, when I entered this family's home. You may know him earlier, but for me, this is my personal reality and my personal truth. I never thought in all of my life that I could love two people as much as my own parents. You know, you grow up and your parents' love is all that you know. There's nothing sweeter and nothing harder than a parent's love for their child. Yet here I am, loving this man just as much as my own parents, and my mother-in-law just as much as my own mother. And Parry, as you guys know him, made it very easy for anyone to love him. For me, he always had this like childlike nature about him. It was wrapped in a kind of innocence that most adults, they lost long ago in their life. But not Mr. Seetal, no. It was this innocence of pure love for life and for people that drove him to do things that nobody else would. I watched this man countless times throughout impossible situations when family and the world would distance themselves from somebody for fear of shame or reputation or something. But there he was, picking that person up from the ground, you know, dusting them off, getting them a new pair of shoes if they needed it, always a hot meal, and then back on the road to life again. I watched countless times as different people and friends, they took advantage of him and his remarkable kindness that was just heavenly. I mean, he administered this kindness with a kind of love that is not physical, it's godly, it's heavenly. This was a man who was quick to put strength in his voice, with some thunder in him, but very, very slow to anger. I have never seen a man slower to anger than him. I learned a lot from him. The powerful quietness of a godly man is the single most powerful force on earth, and he wielded it very well. I will miss this great man in my life. So it would be dishonest of me if I didn't begin with this. But it's moments like this that I question everything that I think and believe about our Creator. It is in moments like this that I have no answers. I have no explanations, no understanding for myself or for you. I will not pretend to have any today. I don't. It is in moments like this that I face the fact that death is an everyday reality. And I lost my place. Oh, You see, I know that reality in my head, right? But I have a hard time facing that fact in my life, especially in the lives of those that I love and I cherish. I don't want to accept that reality, and neither do you. No one wants to. Today, however, will not let us escape that. Today, we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Today, the familiarity, the poetry, and the beauty of that 23rd Psalm, they have a different tone for me, because that shadow is dark, and that valley is long and deep. I will not mislead you by denying that reality, or letting platitudes or your sentiments echo off the valley walls. That doesn't help anyone. The valley is real, and the shadow is here. That does not mean, however, that you and I are without hope. And let me be clear about this. That does not mean that we are not without hope. Yes, the shadow of death is our reality today, but there exists another reality. There exists a much greater reality. What is the one thing necessary for that shadow to exist on us? But it must have light. There can be no shadow without it. The darker the shadow, the brighter the light. Even when we don't see it, the light accompanies us through the valley. It is already a present reality in my life. It is rather proof that the light is also there with me. The light does not undo what has happened or magically make everything better. And please do not hear what I have just said as an answer or an explanation, because it is not. It's a way forward. It is hope. I don't know when or where or how it will happen for you, but I promise you this: there will be moments when you catch glimpses of that light. And the day will come when that light will pierce the shadow that looms over my heart and that looms over yours today. I have experienced that in my own life. I have seen it happen in the lives of others. And you know what? I listened to Papa's stories about how it happened time and time again in his own life. The light has been with us from the beginning. It is trustworthy. It never fades, and the shadow cannot overcome it or extinguish it, not ever. And until that day comes when the light pierces the shadow, and it will, our challenge, our hope, and our way forward is to put one foot in front of the other. That is easier said than done, and sometimes it will take everything that we have to take that next step. But that's why we must stay close. We must walk together continually. We must remind ourselves and one another that a shadow cannot exist apart from the light. Some call that light God or Jesus. Some call it the divine, the holy, the mystery. The prophet Isaiah spoke of it as the Spirit of the Lord God bringing good news, binding up the brokenhearted, and comforting those who mourn. In Revelations to John, it is the one seated on the throne saying, "See, I am making all things new." Papa taught me the Vedas. He taught me to speak of the light. And please forgive me if I take anything out of context or make any errors. I'm just going from my notes from my late conversations I had with Papa. O Brahma, lead us from the unreal to the real. O Brahma, lead us from the darkness to the light. O Brahma, lead us from death to immortality. Shanti, 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 Om. Another one from my notes was, a particle of its bliss supplies the bliss of the whole universe. Everything becomes enlightened in its light. All else appears worthless after a sight of that essence. I am indeed of this supreme and eternal self. And the last one I will quote, because I can quote more. The knower catches in the ecstasy of his heart the full light of that Brahman, that divine essence, which is indescribable, all pure bliss, incomparable, transcending time, ever free beyond all desire. You see, Papa Seetal and I sat up late, many, many nights talking about the world, talking about people and God and heaven. He used a lot of words to describe the light, but one of my favorites was a conversation in which he told me about this idea that he had called the tapestry of life. In the year 2000, I had to go look that up. I mean, tapestry, who uses that word? It's a big, beautiful piece of complicated textile work where all of the really complicated hard work is hidden on the backside. And in the front is revealed this beautiful, picturesque scene And Papa would say, God created a spiritual world, which was a beautiful tapestry in which God and everything and everyone in it are connected. Life is really real here. This is what I have been looking for. He said that he traveled all over. He'd been to temples of all kinds and sat with pundits of all walks of life. He was seeking this tapestry of life. He then told me he never expected to find it here in Miami, Florida. He never thought his life would be as so full and as so beautiful as it was. And then he told me about you, Baron. He told me about you, Cern. He told me about you, Mom, the love of his life. He told me about each of you uncles and aunties, nieces and nephews and cousins. And I guess sometimes it's just easier for us to speak our heart to a trusted stranger than your own loved ones sometimes. You all, everyone here physically and everyone abroad watching online, and all the strangers that none of us ever knew but Parry did, these are the threads woven throughout his tapestry of life. Every one of you here today, whether you know it or not, is a single thread in a man's life that makes up the most beautiful tapestry I've ever seen. And you won't be surprised when I tell you that Mr. Seetal was not an excitable man, but when speaking about God and heavenly things, he could never physically contain his joy, his life, and his vitality. He realized all of this when the birth of his grandson, Keikoa Kavir. He said, and I quote, "I searched in people, I searched in temples, I searched in great spiritual leaders and in great halls. But it was on that day in 2011 that he realized that it was not to be found or taught. It is rather to awaken yourself to what has always been there, what has always been within each of you. That experience Papa had, that's the light behind the shadow. Call it the light, call it the divine God, it doesn't matter. It is the greater reality of today. The proof of that is not in what I say, but in the life that Papa lived. That greater reality is what illuminated his life and made him so tender-hearted. It's what attracted you and me to him. Parry Seetal, father-in-law, Papa, he was contagious. He infected us with his life and helped each and every one of us to see that light. That is our way through the valley of the shadow of death. It's one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, because the light is always shining behind the shadow, and the shadow will never overcome it. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
How impressive, Benjamin. That is, wow. Well, I mean, I'm sure each of you have your own thoughts, but I can tell you it was very amazing tribute, if you will, of a son-in-law, Benjamin, as some of those explanations he gave as he's talking about it when he was taught, when Seetal taught him some Ved mantras. The first one he talked was Om Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, from darkness to light, from death to immortality, from untruth to truth. It's amazing, and it's amazing how you beautifully. It's sometimes you say something. You say people see you're listening, but you're not hearing. Well, clearly you are listening and hearing, and you observed, and that's very impressive, Benjamin. What a wonderful way for today as we send him off to share your thoughts. Very, very touching. He talked about the tapestry of life. There's a beautiful bhajan that all of us are very familiar with. Again, when I say all, I'm referring to those of you in the Hindu Vedic tradition. So is that he says, Maili chadar ओढ़ के कैसे द्वार तुम्हारे आऊं हे पवन परमेश्वर मेरे मन ही मन शर्माऊं मैली चादर ओढ़ के कैसे. Maili mean dirty, chadar mean sheet, tapestry. We all come into this world as beautiful tapestry. There's a beautiful chadar. It's like a white, beautiful, shining child. That's every child is like that. And as the age goes by and you get involved with family and friends and society, and you get the older we get, the more dirty, Maili, the chatter becomes. And the more confusing and more torn and ripped apart it becomes. And then, when it's too late, when it's time to go patch it, to find that thread that was torn away somewhere, we go and say, Hey Pawan Parameshwar, Dwar Tumhare, I am at your door, O God. May you help me to patch, to put this back together. My friends, the message today from Benjamin and from by Seetal is don't wait for that. As you go along the journey of life, if you don't know what it will take to patch it, then don't damage it. You know what I mean? It's very powerful, very simple, but a great poem that, as you were saying that came to mind. But thank you so much, Benjamin. So powerful. Thank you. So next, I would like to ask Bhai Bharat to give us your contribution, and then after that, I will ask Crystal, this niece of Bhai Seetal, to please come forward.
Namaste, Sitaram, Sairam, everyone. I'm a little bit lost for words. I have known Mira since the 70s. We were nurses together at San Fernando General Hospital. I moved to Miami in 1980, so I had lost touch with her. And some years ago, I realized that she and her family had moved to Miami. And then I had met her brother, Suki, and Sergio, and so forth, not knowing that they were brother and sisters. It's only some time ago I realized, well, this world is so small, and what a wonderful family. I had met Mr. Sitahal a few years ago, not knowing that he was the husband. I was at a puja in Miami a few years ago, and he was assisting Pandit there. And I saw him and I spoke to him, very nice gentleman, and not knowing that he was. And so I felt very honored to have met him and to know the family, very decent, very upright family. And I just wanted to share a little hymn or chant, and if everyone can join us, we can do that. गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो विंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो गोपाल गोपाल रे प्यारे नंद लाला गोपाल गोपाल प्यारे नंद लाला हो प्यारे नंद लाला हो प्यारे नंद लाला गोपाल गोपाल रे प्यारे नंद लाला So it is said, just by chanting the name of the Lord, you will attain salvation. Continually chant, and you will, in today's society, in today's time, one of the simplest ways of attaining salvation is just to chant. Sairam, thank you.
Acha, thank you so much, Bhai Bharat. Beautifully well said. I will call, and who we had? The niece, Miss Crystal. Thank you, Crystal. And then after Crystal, again, I'll open up to the audience. Anyone who would like to say anything or any contribution, please feel free to come forward.
Oh, there is something about music that really opens up your heart. So thank you so much for that. I can offer you something small. I want to tell you a story, and it's a true story of two brothers born on either end of three sisters. And though the brothers were the ones who sandwiched the three sisters were the ones who spoil the brothers. And by spoil, I mean love. Two of those sisters are here with us today. Anyway, these two brothers grow up and they decide to build houses to start their lives. But they build their homes right next to each other. The eldest brother starts a family. A boy comes, then a girl, and then the younger brother starts his family, and born 4 months apart within the same year is the eldest brother's child and the younger brother's first child. The younger brother rounds out his family with one more girl 4 years later, and so these 5 children frolic and play together for many years. Like strong and sturdy plants that will become trees, these children grow, their roots deep with passion in Trinidad because of the place and the family that these two brothers started. And they're not in a bubble. Both sides have lots more cousins, aunts, and uncles, 2 sets of grandparents of their own. But it is the sanctity of this shared space, the proximity of living right next to someone, the convenience of it that helps deep and lifelong relationships bloom. The two families often share meals, the children hiding in each other's homes, the mothers gossiping and laughing in the backyard, the brothers standing shoulder to shoulder, watching what they've created: family, laughter, love, life. The younger brother has learned a lot from his older brother, but what these men don't yet realize is that their children and their children's children will reap the benefits of what they've started. The elder brother is my Uncle Parry. The younger brother is my father. To look around us today and see the lives Uncle Parry has touched and shaped, to trace the ripple effect of what he has left behind, is to bear witness to a man who has led a great life, a man who will continue to live on inside of us. And family, as I wrap this up here, I am painfully aware that instead of talking about Uncle Parry in present tense, I now slip into past. And that is a reminder every time that he is gone, no longer physically here with us. And that in itself is hard, hardest most for the people he lived with and for every day: his wife, his daughter, 2 sons, a son-in-law, and 2 beautiful grandsons. This is a loss for us all. We are raw and vulnerable, but we are here together. Let us do as Uncle Parry would have wanted us to do, to lean into each other and remember the bonds that hold us strong, pure, and true. It is with love I say these words to you.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Crystal. Well said, and I like the way she went about it as they grew up, the brothers and their family. The niece of the late Crystal, very nice, and you can feel her emotions, and she can it came right through, and it's indeed there's a beautiful bhajan that says, as she was saying that, another bhajan came to mind, and that is टूट गई है माला मोती बिखर चले. Is saying that this family that she was describing, Every is a garland. And on this garland are all his petals. And these petals are his brothers and his sisters and his family members. And when things like these happen, the garland is broken. And one of these petals fell off. But most important today, Crystal, and the offsprings and siblings and relatives of the late, do your best to not let anyone else fall off, not any other petal fall off. Let's pull it back together. Close the loop, because that's what he would want. Even though he's not a part of that garland, physically, we know he will always be. For Mira, it doesn't matter what you say or do, he will always be there. And all of us, even Karen and Serena, and all of us. So, but do your best to keep the garland, put the garland back together as you go forward. And the things that he did, the things he would like to get done, did not get accomplished. This is our your, in a sense, your task is to work towards that so you can live the life of what he would have been all about. So thank you so much. That was so beautiful, Crystal. Anyone in the audience would like to come forward and offer us, share your thoughts? And then I have the brother-in-law, Bhai Sukram Mohan, will also. I was going to wait first. 1 second, Sukram. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure that I want to be, and there's a lot. We have a lot. This entire room. I came in many times, and this is impressive. I got to tell you, I've not seen it this jammed. I've been in the past, been full, yeah, but it's. Anyone would like to come forward and share their thoughts? All right. So then we'll continue with Bhai Sukram, the brother-in-law of the late Bhai Seetal.
Good morning, everyone. Om Namaste, Sitaram, Sairam. Greetings in the name of the Lord. I am Sukram, who is Parry's brother-in-law. I'm Mira's brother. And if it weren't for me, he would not have been my brother-in-law. Because I came into contact with Parry when he was a young man living in Sangre Grande. Sangre Grande means big blood, so he's really a big-blooded guy, full of vitality. And he's so talkative, and that attracted me to him. Not being talkative, but the substance in the speech that he gave me the very first time we met. And that laid the foundation for him and I to have such a relationship. He wasn't really a brother-in-law, he was like a brother, one of our brothers. So I consider him to be the seventh brother. Two main qualities that attracted me to Parry was the love and the compassion that he showed in himself to everyone that he met. I am no exception to that, and I'm sure some of you all here can vouch for that. It is indeed so unhappy for us to stand here today and mourn for him. But the two major qualities, it so happened to be two of the Lord's most commanding wishes for us as human beings. With love and compassion, we are at the gateway of the Lord's residence. And Parry is there right now, for he has lived his life with those two main characteristics. I stand here to represent also my family and also all my brothers and sisters, nephews and nieces, and all the relatives and friends who cannot be here from the island of Trinidad, from England, New York, all over the globe. So on behalf of them, I extend my condolences to my sister, my two nephews, my niece. I'm looking at something here. It says, the journey of life is shrouded in mystery. There is nothing mysterious about life, but there is something mysterious about death, because no one has ever come back to tell us what really happened after you die. Books are there for us to remind us of really and truly who we are, but a book simply acts as a stimulus to stimulate the power of the Lord within us. Parry has reached that pinnacle, and at this point, he's about ready to join his maker. He came into the world, he lived a righteous life, a life of respect, admiration, a graceful life, and he's departing in a graceful sense with dignity and pride and honor. We salute you, brother, in law and brother, friend, father, husband. We will all miss you. You have our love, our blessings, and you have the blessings of the Lord most importantly. Thank you all very much. Om Namaste.
Thank you very much, Bhai Sukram. Yep, as you said, and that is so true. Life, there's so much to talk about, but when it's death, it's like ooh, a lot of question mark. Another thought that comes to mind about a poem actually says, Zindagi ka safar hai ye kaisa safar, koi samjha nahi, koi jana nahi. Zindagi meaning life, safar meaning his journey. Zindagi ka safar hai ye kaisa safar. What is this journey all about? Life. Because it's like samjha mean to understand. I don't understand. And then all along things are going fine, and then suddenly this happened. So what is life all about? But that's the question. And by Sukram clearly he says it so beautifully where, there's a lot of questions behind when is death. All the question comes out. As long as life is going along, things is okay. Dheere, dheere, chalo, you're happy, or at least things are moving along. But the poet is saying that Zindagi ko bahut प्यार हमने किया मौत से भी मोहब्बत निभाएंगे हम रोते रोते ज़माने में आए मगर हंसते हंसते ज़माने से जाएंगे हम जाएंगे पर किधर है किसे ये खबर कोई समझा नहीं कोई जाना नहीं कोई जाना नहीं no one. Many times people think they know everything, but when it comes to this and you ask the question koi jana nahi, no one, and they try. Life is a path that everybody has to walk on, my friends, but unfortunately this path is so puzzling, and that's what this poet is reminding us. This path is so puzzling that nobody has been able to comprehend it. And by Sukram rightfully said, there are many books you can go study, and there are many books can tell you, but when it happens and you're going through it, it's all question marks. It's all why, Q, kya, what and why is, kaisa, what, how. And but today, what I'm really enjoying and listening as I mean, when I say enjoy, I don't mean it in a fun way, but listen to the thoughts about my, is it just Parmi, is what he said? Is that you call him Parmi? And it's a wonderful, loving Delariwe name of his name. But you grow up and you guys know him, and that's by Parmi. And I can tell you a little bit, again, as I remember knowing him. Oh, I mean, I said a little bit, I'm talking in 2006. It's quite a few years. But always been that type of person indeed. I think Benjamin said it beautiful. When it comes to this side, when it comes to God, when it comes to reverence, when it comes to philosophy, he was serious. There's no question. Because at Manders, he will also do the same. After Manders, we'll chat. You try to get a hold of me, and then we'll start talking, and he'll ask me a few things. And so, I mean, everything it makes so much, you know, sense in terms of this life. Um, Anyone else before I move on to a friend of by Parmi, by Parmanand? That will be by Terence Ram Kalawan. Anyone before we do that? I think there's an emergency. What is it? Amber alert going on. So let's reset our phones. It's a good thing. I mean, we can't complain. That's a good thing because we do need to. When we have alerts like these, we want to know. So once we reset our phones, we'll continue. Yep. So yeah. By Terence, you ready? All right, come right ahead, sir.
Okay, we all know Parry was a vegetarian and he took his religion seriously. That's why he never ate meat. I cannot say that he was the apotheosis of a Himalayan holy man, but he did find time for prayer and fasting. It is hard to let go, but that's life. 2 weeks ago, Parry was at my house, and while having a discourse with my wife, he told her that he was ready to go if the good Lord wanted him. I thank every one of you who are here for remembering his wonderful life. Every face is a memory. Maybe not a perfect one, but we are all together now, and that is what matters most to Parry. I have but one wish. If it will come true, I would wish that everyone would have a life as lucky as Parry, where you can wake up one day and say, you had enough, and you don't need more. And you're ready if the good Lord wants you. 73 years old. How time goes by quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, by Terence, friend of the late Mahashay Parmanan. Let me share a bhajan, and then I'll ask Karen to come up and give us the eulogy for today. This poem is reminding us, this bhajan is saying that, my friends, let us all go to the city of God, for one day we will all have to leave this world, even if we desire otherwise. And I think that is the desire, is to never want to leave. But the poet is reminding us that whether we want or not, we have to. चलो प्रभु की नगरिया दुनिया से नाता तोड़ के तेरा कोई नहीं साथी वैदिक धर्म से नाता जोड़ ले चलो प्रभु की नगरिया दुनिया से नाता तोड़ के एक दिन भैया इस दुनिया से परेग सबको जाना एक दिन भैया इस दुनिया से परेग सबको जाना कौरी कौरी जमा किया सब चोर के माल खजाना यहाँ कोई न रहेगा माता पिता से नाता जोड़ के चलो प्रभु की नगरिया दुनिया से नाता जोड़ के. It's saying that since it is the rule that we have to go from this world, it means that we will have to relinquish ownership of the things, like by Terence was just saying, We'll have to relinquish the ownership of the things that we have collected as our prized possessions. When each and every one of us will breathe our last, our mother, mata, pita, mother or father, my mother will hold on to my stomach, my brother will take hold of my shoulder, my wife will take hold of my feet, all weeping and wailing, asking the cause of my exit. My wife will ask me, "Oh Lord, where are you going? What of the marriage contract that we had?" And so on. And these again go back to what by Sukram was saying, all the questions comes up. And it says that pet, as you know, pet mean belly. पेट पकड़ कर रोए मैया बाह पकड़ के भैया पेट पकड़ कर रोए मैया बाह पकड़ के भैया पाव पकड़ के नारी रोए हाय में दैया मैया कहा जाते हो अकेले सैया लाल चुनरिया चोर के. Where are you going, my dear, my father, my friend, my brother, my husband? This is the question. Kaha se? Where? None of us know. That's the biggest question. And we wish that no one leaves. But sometimes the poet went on to say that even though we would like that to happen, you still go back to the same basic, and that is basics, the basic of life, and that is one day we will, whether we like it or not. Went on to say, let's see, it says, darwaze mean door. Darwaze tak patni saati margat tak sut pyara. He's saying that in the final journey, all of us will accompany, and which we will very shortly. We'll all accompany all the way to the crematorium. And then we have no choice. We have to let go. We would like to hold on. We would like to keep. But he says that दरवाजे तक पतने साथी मरघट तक सो प्यारा दरवाजे तक पत्नी साथी मरघट तक सुत प्यारा चिता जले तक प्रेमी साथी सब कर जाय किनारा सब अंत के बराती वैदिक धर्म से नाता जोड़ ले चलो प्रभु की नगरिया दुनिया से नाता चोर के. You hear the word barati here? Barati means, we all know what barat is, right? When I talk about wedding, the beginning of every wedding has a barat. Joy, jubilance, and tasa, and let's go, we got to get married. It's a happy day. Same thing. All of us are like a barat again, but we're all going together, but in a different sense. Now thank you for your services. Thank you for all you've done. And now you're moving on. We wish the soul all the best. And lastly, this is very powerful. This last verse says that when I came into this world as a newborn baby, my hands were closed. When I depart, I will go with empty hands. Not even my house, nor estate, nor riches will accompany me. This is the truth of life and death. This is what the last verse is saying. Muti bandhe. Janam niyata. Hat kol. Kol mean to open. Khatsana. Bande mean to close. Muti bande janam liyata. Hat kol kar jana. Muti bande janam liyata. Hat kar ko jana. कोती बंगला महल अतारी जर से भरा खजाना तेरा रहे ना संघाती वैदिक धर्म से नाता जोड़ ले चलो प्रभु की नगरिया दुनिया से नाता तोड़ के तेरा कोई नहीं साथी वैदिक धर्म से नाता जोड़ ले. Nata mean relationship. And his poet is saying that Vedic Dharam se nata torke. The only thing that will remain in this journey that I'm leaving and going on now, this new journey, the only thing that will go with me is my dharma. Vedic Dharam se nata jodale. That's the only thing that will accompany me. And what is dharam? Dharam is that which holds you together. That is what you are all about. The word dharma comes from dhri, Sanskrit root dhri. Dhri means that which holds you together. What you're all about, that's what's going to go with you. The things, the deeds, and the actions that were performed, that's what. Everything else just fall apart. All right. So with that, I will ask, and we're doing okay with time. It's 10:46. So I'll ask Karen to come forward and give us the final eulogy, and then I will begin to wrap it up. We'll go to 11 o'clock. We can start the final viewing.
Namaste. I am Karen, daughter of Parry. I would like to express my most humble and sincerest thanks to everyone for being here. As I stand before everyone here today, while I'm experiencing the greatest heartbreak of my life, I'm honored to be able to share a glance at the beautiful life of my father, Permanent Seetal. Most of you know him as Parry. Born in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on June 8, 1949, to his mother Samwati and father Ralph Seetal, he was the firstborn of 8 siblings: Tara, Leela, Indra, Anand, Sati, Vijay, and Robbie. He studied at the Sangre Grande Hindu College and had a flair for the sciences. And at the same time, he felt like he had a dual obligation to his family. My father helped raise his siblings and help with their family's business. Growing up, he was definitely a mama's boy, whose love and loyalty was just unwavering to his family. Naturally dutiful and honorable to his elders, you could always depend on him. It did not matter what was going on, he was there. In his hometown, he was actively involved in helping the community in which he lived, and also helping the elderly in applying for their pensions, paying their bills, because there were no computers and limited resources at that time. He loved children. For instance, every Christmas he played Santa and distributed toys and snacks for the children's ward across the street at the hospital. As the second-born child, I would never be able to do justice in my words for the love story of my mom and dad, which began long before we came into this world. So in my mother's words, this is their love story. Parry was very handsome, kind and loving man who was very friendly. Anyone who met Parry for the first time felt like they were just reacquainted as long-lost friends. He had that kind of magnetic personality and genuine kindness that attracts the best of people. Parry was working at his family's business one busy day, when he looked up and became a deer stuck in headlights. I'm sure you could see that look in some of the pictures up here. He was awestruck by the beauty that just walked in. Mira Seetal had just walked into their business, and the rest is history. She is the love of his life. They were married for over 45 years and were both blessed with 3 beautiful children, Varen, Karen, and Surin, and later with their 2 precious grandchildren, Kekoa Kavir and Kai Roham, whom he loved dearly. Today, this physical love story ends, and the eternal spiritual love story continues on forever between these 2 amazing lights of life, as both of them are close with God. Parry loves God, and Parry loves his family. He devoted his entire life and lived a full life reflective of these great characteristics. Everybody loves Parry. Mom, I hope I honored you and your words for Dad. Now, my dad loved all his nieces and nephews and had a special way of letting them know this. Many strangers became his friends, whom he valued like his own family. According to him, there was no one better than the other. Everyone should feel welcome and loved. He was always willing to offer a helping hand or even life advice. He remained as a pillar to his family and community. A man so loving of the world and all that is in it, he became a vegetarian at the age of 12 for the remorse of having to take an animal's life. This is the kind of amazing man my dad was. Anyone who has ever crossed paths with my dad can pretty much say that his smile and benevolent nature was impressionable. According to his grandson Keikoa, his papa had the brightest smile ever. A totally devoted father and husband who took the time to teach and explain everything in great detail, in a modest way, of course. Dad held a tight ship with us growing up, very big on tradition, discipline, and education. We migrated as a family to the United States in 1992 and settled in Miami, Florida. It is here my father continued to instill the best teachings and encourage us to be the best that we can be. As I became older, I noticed one of the most admirable attributes is his reverence for God. My dad loved God and spent every morning celebrating and thanking God. He taught us the importance of being devoted to God and having a relationship with God. Then something magical happened. My daddy became Papa. This was the most pivotal role ever. Becoming a grandparent to Kekoa Kavir and Kai Rohan was his greatest joy. After the birth of his grandchildren, I watched my father transform into the coolest papa ever because the discipline went out the door. I trained my children based off of the way I was raised, and now I was being critiqued for it. Who is this man? He made me look like a strict warden. I guess it's the magic of being a grandparent which fills one's soul with complete joy in having to see their legacy live on. Daddy, you have been in the front row for all the recitals and celebrations, and here you are one last time in this form. Until we meet again, I know that you are looking from up above, showering us with your continued unconditional love and blessings, giving us the confidence to proceed with the rest of our lives, having the best conversations with God and dancing with the angels. A man who carried great strength in his voice and gentleness in his heart. My daddy, the best father in the world, I love you always and forever. You had the blessing of being with me when I tasted my first breath of life, and now I had the blessing of being with you when you took your last breath. Thank you, Daddy. I love you always.
Thank you, Karen, and I'm sure all of you will agree with me that how befitting of every word that she shared. Again, you can feel her emotions and her connection that she had with her dad. Very, very beautifully well said. And it's interesting when she said how he changed. All of a sudden, everything went out the door when Keiko and Kai came along, and nothing else mattered. But because another level, another generation has come along. But yes, indeed, I can attest to some of what she said, and that is that reverence piece. Indeed, very serious when it comes to philosophy, and comes to you talk about God and so on. It was one of those that really stood out. I will share you my last thought, but before I do, anyone else in the audience, before I just want to open it up to anyone in the audience, and I'll share my last thoughts. Then we have garlands that each of the family members will use that as we go give the final respects to the deceased. None? Okay, so I'll just share a couple things, and then I will wrap up with another poem. I just want to, as I mentioned earlier, my role as a Purohit, as a Pandit, as a teacher, is to teach. And I know there are many times in our tradition, there are things that come along, a lot of questions being asked. And I also said it this morning, and that's your role. If you have a teacher, then you should ask questions. And the teacher's role is to give you answers. So let me share a few things. For example, when someone dies, our responsibility, those who are left behind, is to environmentally, hygienically, and the right processes that we know what they are to perform that to make sure we done our part. There's absolutely nothing else you can do. And that is, we do it from a traditional standpoint. Cremation is what we were asked to do. And the reason for cremation, obviously, is because it's the fastest way, as I mentioned earlier, for the 5 elements, earth, fire, water, air, and ether, to reconnect. The soul is gone. Having said that, after this cremation today, and I think, let me talk about 12 o'clock for a second. Many times I hear people say, well, Panity has to be done at 12 or before 12. And the whole thing about 12 o'clock, let me clarify that real quick. The whole purpose of 12 o'clock is because 12 o'clock is when the sun is at its peak, the highest heat in its journey. Today, it does not matter. Think about the pandemic we just had 2 years ago. People are lining up for weeks. They don't care what time of the day or the night to get cremation done, whether it's New York or Florida, anywhere. Isn't that so? So that went out the window. It does not matter. 12 o'clock was traditionally, when we did not have crematoriums like we do today, you have to build that pyre, as I mentioned. And you want to get the highest heat so that the pyre and the fire can burn at its best. That's the purpose of 12 o'clock. Nothing religious, nothing spiritual. You're not doing anything right or anything wrong by 12 o'clock. Am I making sense? Please, and please share that. And if anyone tells you otherwise, tell them where they're getting it from, that it has to be, or what is it that they're quoting for you. There's nothing religious or spiritual about that. It's all common sense. That's all it is. Okay? And then the last thing I'd like to share is that after the cremation, we go back to the home and we do what's called Griha Shuddhi. Griha Shuddhi means, Griha meaning the home, Shuddhi means purification. Purification home. That was the last place of residence of the deceased. And what we do there, we chant, is a very brief Havan service, puja. And we chant mantras, and those are mantras that we did not chant here today, but we chant, and they're the Ishwa Stuti Pratnopasana mantra, the Swasti Vachana mantra, and the Shanti Prakarana mantras. Shanti is for peace, Swasti is for happy living, and the first set is for recognizing, acknowledging that God, you are the best, you're the greatest. Thank you for everything. And we ask that, may now that this is all finished, may you help us, give us strength, so we can pick up the pieces and move forward strong. Once that's done, my friends, there's absolutely nothing else that needs to be done. If anyone or any pandit tell you got to do this and do that, again, where are you getting that from? It has nothing to do. There's nothing more you or I can do for the deceased. Okay? It's gone. It's all in the hands of God. Even if you do a memorial service, or whenever you do, if you do a memorial service, again, it's nothing to do with, it's not because of the body, it's because of you. You have a sense of closure. You have a sense that I have done what I need to do, and that's, so anything you do afterwards, it's all because of your personal satisfaction, if you will, and sense of completion and finality. Okay? And again, I encourage you, please, if anyone have any question, feel free to reach out to me. I'll do my best to explain to you. So I will share with you one last poem, and then we'll go to the final pieces, which is I'll ask the family, they will have garlands, they will each go, and I will chant prayer with them. So this is what we do. After I'm finished with this poem, I will ask that in a very orderly manner we can begin with the final viewing, but then the family, not the family, they will remain, and then they will last come up, and with the garlands we'll do that. I'll chant the final prayers, and then I'll ask the funeral director to come forward, and also we'll prepare to close the casket to proceed to the crematorium. This poem is saying that this body is like a rental apartment. Someday the lease will expire. And when death, the landlord here is death, will give the call, you, each and every one of us, you, the tenant soul, will have to exit the body apartment. Zindagi. It's saying that, well, one second. It says that if you want to experience a sun filled golden day, then you must be prepared to first experience the darkness of night, which is then followed by a brilliant dawn. And the reason for that is if you don't understand what darkness is, there's no way you can appreciate what light is. And he's saying that in the same way, if you want to walk on the paths strewn with flowers, you must be prepared to step on thorny paths. The experience of sorrow makes us appreciate the value of joy. Not that we want to, but when it does happen, it does makes us really appreciate more than what we expected. जिंदगी एक किराए का घर है, एक ना एक दिन बदलना पड़ेगा. जिंदगी एक किराए का घर है, एक ना एक दिन बदलना पड़ेगा. मौत जब तुमको आवाज देगी, मौत जब तुमको आवाज देगी, घर से बाहर निकलना पड़ेगा. जिंदगी जिंदगी एक किराए का घर है, एक ना एक दिन बदलना पड़ेगा. रात के बाद होगा सवेरा, देखना है अगर दिन सुनहरा. रात के बाद होगा सवेरा, देखना है अगर दिन सुनहरा. पाव फूलों के रखने से पहले, पाव फूलों पे रखने से पहले, तुमको कांटों पे चलना पड़ेगा. जिंदगी जिंदगी एक किराए का घर है, एक न एक दिन बदलना पड़ेगा. This next verse says that the human body, miti means clay, the human body is just a heap of clay. After the soul exits by way of death, the clay body is dissolved either by being consigned to cremation flames or other means. ढेर मिट्टी का हर आदमी है, बाद मरने के होना यही है. ढेर मिट्टी का बाहर मी है, बाद मरने के होना यही है. ये ज़मीनों में तुरबत बनेगा, ये ज़मीनों में तुरबत बनेगा, या चिताओं में जलना पड़ेगा. जिंदगी जिंदगी एक किराए का घर है, एक न एक दिन बदलना पड़ेगा. This next verse is saying that ये जवानी, जवानी mean youth. ये जवानी है पल भर का सपना, सपना mean dream. Youth is a period in the body's lifespan that lasts just for a few years. Use your strong, youthful body to discover your destination. You will suffer from severe regret for the rest of your life if you allow your youthful days to lapse without realizing your objectives. And listen to some of the messages today. Dressing as Santa Claus when he was youthful, when he was young. And whenever, whatever, that, you do those things that brings joy, those things that spread joy. Use it wisely. Not when, and then we always hear about, well, I will do this when something happened. Meaning, oh, after I got so much in the bank, or after I got this car, or after I got this house, then I will do. The poet said, you have to wait for that. As long as you have strength. The key is jawani. Strength. And when I say it with our youth, it doesn't mean just teenage. As long as you have strength, whatever age that is, keep doing, understand what are the objectives. What are your objectives to be and to have a successful life? ये जवानी है पल भर का सपना, ढूंढ ले अब ठिकाना तू अपना. ये जवानी है पल भर का सपना, ढूंढ ले अब ठिकाना तू अपना. ये जवानी अगर ढल गई तो, ये जवानी अगर ढल गई तो, उम्र भर हाथ मलना पड़ेगा। जिंदगी जिंदगी एक किराए का घर है, एक न एक दिन बदलना पड़ेगा. And then the poet wraps it all up by saying that pride and youthful vigor last a few years alone in life. Just wait for the evening of life to arrive when the rising sun of youth will begin to set, and see how the scene will drastically change. So, the message today as we send off the mortal frame of now the late permanent Seetal, and Parmy, as many of you know the name, know him as, is that may you remember him in a way that this poet is saying that go forward and do those things that bring joy, do those things not just joy to you, but to society, family, and friends. ये तकबर ये जोशे जवानी, चांद लम्हों की है जिंदगानी. ये तकबर ये जोशे जवानी, चांद लम्हों की है जिंदगानी. ए बशर शाम तक देख लेना, ए बशर शाम तक देख लेना, छठे सूरज को ढलना पड़ेगा. जिंदगी जिंदगी एक किराए का घर है, एक न एक दिन बदलना पड़ेगा. मौत जब तुमको आवाज देगी, घर से बाहर निकलना पड़ेगा. जिंदगी एक किराए का घर है, एक न एक दिन बदलना पड़ेगा. So with that, I would like to now ask for the any. We're good, Karen? You have me here? It's a great suggestion by Mira, and I think it's a great. So the boys with the garlands, the 6 boys I think we have, right? That will when we are going to go to the proceed to the crematorium. If you can come forward, take the garlands, and then if you can come forward, I'll chant the prayer here also. Unless you know when garlands and flowers are indicative of love. That's when someone is ill, is not what we do. We go to the hospital most times. We take a bouquet of flowers. What are flowers do? It brings joy. But today, as we dedicate, they are showing their love and letting the late that we will always love you. But also importantly, I want to remind those the surviving that love needs to permeate and continue with each and every one of you. Okay? So we have all the garlands. And then after this, I would like I said, I would like to ask that we have the final viewing started. And then I will say that will take probably, I guess, 20 to 25 minutes maybe. After that, then the immediate family will join with me here. And the funeral director will then come with us. And I'll chant the final prayer and we'll close the casket and we'll proceed to the crematorium. All right? So behind you. All with the garlands, just come forward. Just come with everyone with a flower. Yep. No, not yet. No, just stand there with you. Just stand there with the garland.
टूट गई है माला मोती बिखर चले दो दिन रह कर साथ जाने किधर चले। टूट गई है माला, मिलन की दुनिया छोड़ चलेंगे, आज विरह में सपने। मिलन की दुनिया छोड़ चलेंगे, आज विरह में सपने। खोए खोए नैनों में है उजड़े उजड़े सपने, उजड़े उजड़े सपने। याद की गठरी लिए झुकाए नजर चले। दो दिन रह कर साथ जाने किधर चले। टूट गई है माला, अब तो ये जग में जिएंगे आंसू पीते पीते। अब तो ये जग में जिएंगे आंसू पीते पीते। जैसी इन
This life will leave this body, and one day this life will leave this body, and I will exist no more in this material world. Every living being must eventually marry the bride of death. Let not the mind lust at physical wealth and pleasures. The services that we can perform, do it now, for you may never get the opportunity to pass this way again. Glorify the name of the Lord and receive his blessings. Ek din hame bhi jana hai. One day we will all have to leave this world.
एक दिन हमें भी जाना है, एक दिन हमें भी जाना है। जग चला जाता है सारा, जग चला जाता है सारा, इकता कौन ठिकाना है।
Very good. You will continue playing the music very low. That's good. And thank you. So we have the relatives came forward, immediate relatives, and they placed a garland, once again showing their love, respect for the deceased, that they will really miss him, and express their emotions in the form of the garland. And so then I would like now to ask the audience to please come forward, row by row if you can, please. And then once that's finished, again, the immediate family remain is first two rows over here. We'll have a final prayer, all of us together, and then we'll close the casket at that point. So we want to begin on that side. First row, come forward, then second, and so on, in an orderly manner. And then we can, and this is basically a final viewing of the mortal frame of the late permanent Seetal. Thank you. And if you do so, it's just, again, it's a choice. You don't have to. It's your decision, what you would like to do. Yep. So they're, they're coming this way. Acha. So come. Yep. Come on. Here they come. You come this way and then you go that way. Yep.
दौलत के झूठे नशे में हो चूर गरीबों की दुनिया से रहते हो
Come on.
दूर
Come this way.
एक दिन ऐसा
Let me go that way.
आएगा जब माटी में सब मिल जाएगा माटी ही ओढ़न माटी बिछावन माटी का तन बन जाएगा माटी में सब मिल जाएगा ऊंचे आसमान से भी ऊंची तेरी आस है
There is flowers on the sides to come forward. There's petals, roses that you can take.
तेरी सांस
Very good.
इसका तू हिसाब कर अंगूठा उंगलियों पे धर कितनी खर्च कर रहा भलाई में कितनी तू लगा रहा बुराई में भलाई का फल रह जाएगा बाकी माटी में सब मिल जाएगा माटी ही ओढ़न माटी बिछावन माटी का तन बन जाएगा माटी में सब मिल जाएगा
आए भी अकेला into this world we have come alone और जाए भी अकेला and in a similar manner when we take our exit we shall leave alone 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला when we do take stock of our lives we realize that this life is a very short visit to a mela this is a world of strangers no one is yours although everyone lives I am still alone आए भी अकेला और जाए भी अकेला
त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धु च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देवा आए भी अकेला जाए भी अकेला 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला आए भी अकेला जाए भी अकेला 2 दिन की जिंदगी है 2 दिन का मेला
भगवान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान। सूरज न बदला, चांद न बदला, ना बदला रे आसमान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान। आया समय बड़ा बेढंगा, आज आदमी बना लफंगा। कहीं पे झगड़ा, कहीं पे दंगा, नाच रहा नर होकर नंगा। छल और कपट के हाथों अपना बेच रहा ईमान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान। देख तेरे संसार की हालत क्या हो गई भगवान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान। राम के भक्त रहीम के बंदे, रचते आज फरेब के फंदे। कितने ये मक्कार ये अंधे, देख लिए इनके भी धंधे। इन्हीं की काली करतूतों से हुआ ये मुल्क मसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान।
जिंदगी का सफर है एक ऐसा सफर, कोई समझा नहीं, कोई जाना नहीं। जिंदगी का सफर है एक ऐसा सफर, कोई समझा नहीं, कोई जाना नहीं। है एक ऐसी जगह चलते हैं सब मगर, कोई समझा नहीं, कोई जाना नहीं। जिंदगी को बहुत प्यार हमने किया, मौत से भी मोहब्बत निभाएंगे हम। रोते रोते ज़माने में आए मगर, हंसते हंसते ज़माने से जाएंगे हम। जाएंगे पर किधर है किसे ये कबर, कोई समझा नहीं, कोई जाना नहीं। ऐसे जीवन भी है जो जिए ही नहीं, जिनको जिनने से पहले ही मौत आ गई। भूल को खिलने से पहले फिजा छा गई है परेशान नजर तक गए चार अगर कोई समझा नहीं कोई जाना नहीं है ये कैसी जगह चलते हैं सब मगर कोई समझा नहीं कोई जाना नहीं जिंदगी का सफर है ये कैसा सफर कोई समझा नहीं कोई जाना नहीं
Thank you all very much for the testing. Testing. You good? Yeah. Testing. Yeah. Thank you all very much for a very orderly manner that we conducted the final viewing. So what we will do next, we'll have the immediate family members will join with me. If our funeral director can also come forward. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. If you don't mind, if you can open up for us the other half of the casket, I appreciate it. And the family members are all gathered around the casket with me. We'll chant the final farewell prayer. As I mentioned to you, the prayer I'm chanting is what I said earlier this morning. Om Vayu Anilam Amritam Atedam Bhasmantam Shariram Om Kratosmara Klivesmara. We'll proceed to the crematorium to take the body for the final piece of the journey, and that is to back to the ashes. So, Mira, children, in-laws, immediate relatives that would like to participate in this closing of the casket, please join with us in the front. So here we are. We are going to say our final prayers, and then we'll place what we did this morning from the Hawan, which Robbie is doing for me in about. Very good, Robbie. The ashes from the fire this morning. And then we'll also wrap it all up with here it is, and we put this us before we close, right before we close. Right before we close. Yeah. Yeah. You can put it now. Go ahead. Yeah, thank you. And this too. Leave it like, yeah. Hold it if you can. Not entirely, just the dia. Acha. All right, so I will chant that prayer I mentioned this morning, and then we'll also close it with the final Shantipat. May there be peace from all directions, and may the soul move forward strong, and whatever the journey, whatever the final destination is, may that be a wonderful, great one. Om Vayur Anilam Amritam Atedham Bhasmantam Shariram Om Krato Smara Klive Smara Kritam Smaraha Om Vayur Anilam Amritam Atedham Bhasmantam Shariram Om Krato Smara Klive Smara Kritam Smaraha Om Vayur Anilam Amritam Atedham Bhasmantam Shariram Om Krato Smara Klive Smara Kritam Smaraha. Where's our funeral director? Here you are, sir. If you don't mind, as I chant this final prayer, you can start closing that bottom half. Appreciate it. Yes? All of us together, Shantipat. Om Dhyau Shanti Antarikshagvam Shanti Prithvi Shanti Rapaha Shanti Oshadhaya Shanti Vanaspatya Shanti Vishvedeva Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvavam Shanti Shanti Reva Shanti Sama Shanti Redhi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. All right, now we'll close the final. This is it. Soren, Karen, Viren, you can come and you can close this top, this half. And Benjamin, anyone. All right, and then the funeral director will take it from here. We'll get it, move it to the outside, and then we'll proceed. Om Vayur Anilam Amritam Atedam Bhasmantam Shariram Om Krato Smara Kritam Smara Kritem Smaraha. Acha. All set? You want it? That's fine. That's perfectly fine. Whatever you work with. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's fine. Give it to Robbie. Robbie, you be in charge of it. Let Robbie take care of it.
आसमान से भी ऊंची तेरी आस है, पर कभी सोचा नहीं गिनती की तेरी सांस है। इसका तू हिसाब कर, अंगूठा उंगलियों पे धर, कितनी खर्च कर रहा भलाई में, कितनी तू लगा रहा बुराई में। भलाई का फल रह जाएगा, बाकी माटी में सब मिल जाएगा। माटी ही ओढ़न, माटी बिछावन, माटी का तन बन जाएगा, माटी में सब मिल जाएगा। ऊंची हवेली ये ऊंचे महल, ऊंची हवेली ये ऊंचे महल, पल भर में जाएंगे पगले बगल, जाएगा, जब माटी में सब मिल जाएगा। माटी ही ओढ़न, माटी बिछावन, माटी का तन बन जाएगा। माटी में सब मिल जाएगा। दौलत के झूठे नशे में हो तू। देख तेरे संसार की हालत क्या हो गई भगवान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान। सूरज न बदला, चांद न बदला, ना बदला रे आसमान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान। आया समय बड़ा बेढंगा, आज आदमी बना लफंगा। कहीं पे झगड़ा, कहीं पे दंगा, नाच रहा नर होकर नंगा। छल और कपट के हाथों अपना बेच रहा ईमान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान। देख तेरे संसार की हालत क्या हो गई भगवान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान। राम के भक्त रहीम के बंदे, रचते आज परे के फंदे। कितने ये मक्कार ये अंधे, देख लिए इनके भी धंधे। इन्हीं की काली करतूतों से हुआ ये मुल्क मसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान। देख तेरे संसार की हालत क्या हो गई भगवान, कितना बदल गया इंसान, कितना बदल गया इंसान।
जगदम्बिके जय जय जगजननी माँ। जगदम्बिके जय जय जगजननी माँ। क्या मन हरना सुहाया है, क्या मन हरना सुहाया है। वारो सब कुछ माँ चरणों पर मेरे मन कोई भाया है। जगदम्बिके जय जय जगजननी माँ। जय माँ, जय माँ। श्री राम तू ही, श्री कृष्ण तू ही, दुर्गा कली श्री राधा तू। जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ। श्री राम तू ही, श्री कृष्ण तू ही, दुर्गा कली श्री राधा तू। ब्रह्मा विष्णु शिव शंकर में तेरा ही तेज समाया है, तेरा ही तेज समाया है। जगदम्बिके जय जय जगजननी माँ। जगदम्बिके जय जय जग जग जननी माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ। मैं जो पाऊँ तुमसे पाऊँ, जो देवे उसमें हर्षाऊँ। जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ। मैं जो पाऊँ तुमसे पाऊँ, जो देवे उसमें हर्षाऊँ। मैंने सर्वस्व चढ़ाया है, पद को तो गले लगाया है। जगदम्बिके जय जय, जग जननी माँ, जगदम्बिके।